Hey, this is Yazuki Wolf. In our last episode, we went through the ka column of the Japanese hiragana, going through ka, ki, ku, ke, ko, and before that we went through a, I, u, e, o. This week, we're going to be moving on down the graph into the S column, where we will be going over sa, shi, su, se, and so. And you'll see here, once again, we have the hiragana on the left and the katakana on the right. But for this series, for the time being, we're going to be focusing on the hiragana. So I'm going to go ahead and cover up the katakana so that doesn't distract us for the time being. So let's just very quickly go over each of these. So once again, we're going the a, I, u, e, o, but adding an S to it. So we have sa. Now this is another example. I was telling you this with the ki as well, is that now you'll see here that the stroke is filled in all the way like this, but a lot of times you'll see it where it's actually kind of like empty, because the way that it's drawn is it would be done with a brush, and the brush would go this way and then it goes down and then it kind of moves up, and you're pulling the brush off the page and just making it very, very light, and then you're pushing down again at the bottom. And so a lot of times you'll see where this area right here will actually disappear completely. So just be aware that that's another form of the same word, or the same letter rather. So you can see either one of these types of ways that it could be written. And now we're moving to she, and so this is where things start to change. The pattern starts to change from what we've been doing so far, because thus far we've just been adding the consonant to the a, I, u, e, o sounds. Whereas this time, if you were to just follow the same pattern, it would be sa, si. But there is no C sound in Japanese. That's just something you have to remember. There's certain sounds that were not native to the Japanese language, so they kind of morph a little bit. So with the S, it goes sa, and then it becomes she. You know, just like the English female she, right? And she, so that's she right there. And then now we have su. Then we have se, and so. And I actually kind of forget what the actual order that you're supposed to do these strokes in with says. Was it this way? Or was it this way? I don't think it really matters. I mean, if the purists will tell you that you have to learn the actual stroke order and whatnot, but if you could just write it in a way that's legible, I think it won't be a huge issue. But if you want to find out more, go ahead and like look up guides, or just type into like Google kakijun is the way it'd be written in Japanese. Kakijun, or maybe you could just type in stroke order for hiragana, and it will give you the 1, 2, 3 or whatnot of how that goes. All right, so we have sa, shi, su, se, so, and last week we talked about voiced versus unvoiced letters, and we explained that in how k can actually become a g if you add these two little marks in the upper right hand corner. So ka, if you add these marks here, that becomes ga, gi, gu, ge, and go. And the same thing here with the S sound. So this is S, but if we add, so this is the S, but if we voice the S sound, it turns into a Z or Z, depending on where you're listening to this from. So we have a sa, but if we add the 10-10, it becomes za. And now this one's a little interesting because she doesn't turn into z, even though if you were typing on a computer keyboard, you could type z. I think you could type zi and it will come up, but the pronunciation is actually more like a j, so it becomes g. And now this is another thing to kind of like talk about a little bit, because it is a j, but you're not gonna say j, you're gonna say j. So it's a j. Imagine pronouncing a j in a sh type of way. I mean, literally what you're doing is you're taking sh and you're voicing it. So she turns into ji. Hopefully that makes some sense. But we'll go into more details about that in the future after you've learned how to write, I guess. So then we have su turns into zu, and se turns into ze, and so turns into zo. So pretty straightforward. If you want to screen cap that, go ahead and do that now, and practice that some more on your own time. And once you're ready, we're going to go ahead and start going through some vocabulary. And starting from the top, once again, I have the kanji on the left-hand side. Don't worry if you don't remember all of that right now. I just wanted to have that in your kind of your peripheral vision to enter into your subconscious to remember that these are kind of the relations between these things. So we have ka, sa. put that together, kasa, which means umbrella. Because we like to say in Japan, mi kasa es su kasa. So if you're in need of an umbrella, go ahead and use my umbrella. I guess that's what you could say. I don't know if people actually do say that, but it's a way that something I remember when I first came here. Like, so in Spanish, casa is house. In Japanese, casa is umbrella. House, umbrella, more or less the same thing. I mean, trust me, on a rainy day when you need an umbrella, mi kasa es su kasa makes a lot of sense. So anyways, next we have asa. Asa, which means morning. So obviously that's a word that's going to come up a lot. I can't think of an example per se right now of using it in a sentence, but yeah, you'll hear that a lot. Next we have, well, you can say things like asa gohan, which is breakfast. Because gohan means rice, but it also means like meal. So asa gohan, asa meal means asa gohan equals breakfast. Then moving on, we have asa, but we add a e at the end, and this is where the kanji becomes kind of interesting, because you can see here on the left hand side that we have the kanji here with the e sound, with the e hiragana next to it, and that's because the hiragana is actually conjugating or changing the meaning or the way that the actual kanji is being used. I go into more detail about how these relations work in episode 0, where I break down the actual way that the language is written. So if you're not clear about that, go ahead and check out that episode to hear more. So this kanji here is the kanji for shallow, and then when you put the e next to it, it turns into the adjective. So we have asai, which means shallow. Next we have kesa, and once again here we have an interesting thing going on here in the kanji, where we have asa up here, right? That's for morning, and then here we have asa again. It shows up here again, but it's preceded with the kanji for now. So it's the most direct or the most current morning, which should be this morning, and that becomes kesa. And you'll hear that quite often in Japan as well, like did you hand in the assignment, and you'd say like, I handed it over this morning, like kesa watashita yo, like I handed it over this morning, or I turned it in this morning. Kesa teishitsu shita, kesu teishitsu shimashita. And we'll talk about the actual sentences in the future, but we'll get to that when we get to it. First, you have to learn how to write. So next we have sekai, which is the world. You'll hear this also very, very often. But moving on, we also have keshiki, which is keshiki, and that's the scenery. So if you go on vacation or go up a mountain, you'd be like, ii keshiki desu ne, like it's a very nice view or very nice scenery. It looks really great, from the top of the mountain looking down on the town or whatnot. Now we have a kesu, which is to erase, and so that's kesu, and that just means erase. You may hear, if you're any Death Notes fan, you also might know sakujo, but and I guess I could have actually included sakujo into this, because that is a sa sound. But yes, there's a couple different ways to say erase, but erase, I guess kesu kind of has the feeling of like scratching off, while sakujo is more like formal, like deleting. I guess it's kind of closer to delete. You'll see it a lot in computers when you delete a file or something. All right, so we have gishiki. Once again, we have the 10-10 there, turning the ka sound into a g sound, and gishiki just means a ceremony. So any type of ceremony becomes a gishiki. Then we have isu. Isu means chair. This comes up quite often. As well. They have osu. Osu means to push. You'll see this on doors when you're walking in Japan. If you're on the side that's supposed to push, you'll say osu. It may be in kanji like this, so it might be good to remember that. Don't pull when it says push. You'll look kind of dorky. Then we have ase. Ase. It's very hot in Japan right now, so I am definitely experiencing this at the moment. Ase daku is like you sweat. Ase darake ga chotto kimoi da ne. It's kind of disgusting if you're covered in sweat, so try to avoid that. Especially on the trains in Japan. I mean, this is one thing that makes me like really be very careful to always take a shower and be well groomed, because when you're on a train and you're like literally so packed that your body is touching like 3 or 4 different people at the same time, because that's how packed you are in, like a sardine. I mean, if you don't believe me, look up pictures of like rush hour trains in Tokyo, And you don't want the people around you to be really sweaty or smelly. It just makes your 20-minute ride or 45-minute ride, depending on how long it is before your next transfer, very uncomfortable. So, yep, hygiene is important if you're living in Tokyo. This side. Jikai. 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 And in Japanese, this kanji here just means next, and this one means kai, so the next time. So, sorry. This kanji right here means next, and this kanji here means time. So next time, jikai. So I'm not focusing on kanji right now, but I just want you to remember like these relations, because once you know kanji, it's going to be a lot easier to remember these words. Because like if you look over here, it just says jikai. Like what do all those sounds what do all those sounds mean? How does that get you to next time? But if you look at the kanji and you have next and time, well, there you go. It means next time. It's just so much, things click a lot easier once you actually start connecting it to the kanji. Next we have kazu, which means number. So kazu. Once again, the 1010 there is turning the su sound into a z, so it becomes zu. So kazu. And now this has a lot of ways that it could be used, like kazu ga oi to muskashii na. Like, so if you're playing a video game and there's a lot of enemies, like you'll say like kazu ga oi kara muskashii yo na. Like there's a lot of enemies, so it's really hard, you know. So there's a large number. So a lot of times if you just want to say a lot of, you might use kazu. Or kazu ga sukunai kara sabishii. Like there weren't a lot of people at the meeting, so I felt lonely. You know, like there's not a lot of people, so it could be in terms of the amount of people or things or whatever are there, or it could be literally like saying like pick the right number, or like it could literally be talking about a number. So that's go more into that in the future. So that is pretty much all, and there's a lot of words there. Go ahead and screen cap that if you want to kind of practice those on your own time. So in the next video, we're going to be talking about ta, chi, tsu, te, and to. So till next time, live boldly and be creative. Yoroshiku.